San Diego Congressman Scott Peters says he's committed to dealing with climate change, but he will not be supporting the Green New Deal. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson sat down with the Democrat to discuss his climate change playbook and legislation he'd like to see passed.
We're speaking with Congressman Scott Peters here at the KPBS studios. You have a position on the Green New Deal. What is it?
I don't think it's bold, and I don't think it's action. Look, I totally support the enthusiasm that it's brought. I'm really happy to see that voters appear to be interested in what I've been interested in for 20 years, which is climate action. They're taking votes based on that. But the Green New Deal is not bold in that it doesn't bring anybody else in. It is the easiest thing in the world to go talk to a bunch of people you agree with and give a fiery speech. The hard thing is to go to the middle of the room, find people maybe you don't agree with, and get them to work with you on solutions. And action means bringing Republicans to the table. The problem with the Green New Deal is, well, two, is one is it's just basically, there's no legislation in it. You have to follow up with legislation to actually implement it. But two, it contains some things in there that I just don't agree with, like guaranteed jobs from the federal government and free college. We could talk about those separately, but it tends to push people away from the issue where we really need people to come together to get to net zero by mid-century.
Okay, you've come together with your Climate Playbook.
Right.
Explain to me what that is and how that works.
Rather than looking for something divisive, we decided to look for all the solutions that are out there already. I mean, the big difference is not that this election brought awareness on climate. It brought Democrats into the majority. And a lot of us have been working on these things, haven't been able to get them to the House floor because leadership wouldn't let us do that. So we're looking at what we can do. We've already agreed on bringing the United States back into the Paris Agreement. What can we do on decarbonizing electricity, industry, manufacturing, agriculture, transportation? Where can we agree on things like adaptation? What are we going to do about the effects we know will come from climate change already? And many of these bills that are out there already are bipartisan, and we can get them passed. I think one thing people need to realize is that the Green New Deal is not any of those actual steps. If you pass the Green New Deal today, you'd have to take these actions tomorrow. I'm already onto that.
A lot of the bills in your Climate Playbook actually reference the Green New Deal.
What we wanted to show was that if you wanted to implement the Green New Deal, you wanted to achieve those goals, we all agree we need to do net zero carbon emissions by mid-century. You need to take the steps we've outlined in the Green New Deal. Now we're going further, and we're trying to prioritize those things. What would make the biggest difference? And we're continuing to work to find out what would really help us come together to save the planet. But the notion that we are able to snap our fingers and get through this is really misguided, I think.
What had made progress so far in that Climate Playbook?
We passed H.R. 9, which is an effort to get the United States back into the Paris Agreement, which every other country in the world is part of, which is the notion that we're all going to come together and solve the climate crisis together. We've asked in H.R. 9 for President Trump to give us his plan if he doesn't like the plans that were out there before. We passed 9 of the bills in the Climate Playbook through my committee, the Energy and Commerce Committee in the House. Those will go to the House floor. And we're working on bipartisan approaches for new bills, whether it's on methane capture or tax treatment for new baseload energies like hydropower or geothermal, and for accounting better for extreme weather that comes from climate change. We've actually passed the bill on that through the House and into the Senate.
Talk to me about your district. How is your district going to be affected as the climate changes?
Back in 2010, I was chair of the climate initiative for the San Diego Foundation. One of the things we did was we funded research on that very question. There's 3 main effects in San Diego County. One is sea level rise. One is more intense wildfires, which we've seen, I think, over the past decade or so. And one is water supply issues. Throughout the state, California is going to be faced with water supply issues. Those are all effects of climate change that will be felt here in San Diego.
Congressman Peters, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
Once again, that was KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson interviewing San Diego Congressman Scott Peters.